Prior to his studies in Tamarind, he already had years of experience in the industry while working at the Artists Press. It was in 2014 that he founded LL Editions, fine art lithography studio, which provides a productive and creative environment and engages with artists on the production of inspirational artworks. His vision is to provide such an environment on a larger scale to fuel creativity and development opportunities for young talents. Since the establishment of LL Editions, the studio has collaborated with more than 50 artists, from which multiple editions has been produced. So I'm once again saying just welcome, Joe. I'm incredibly excited to be talking with you and going through this visual journey with you, because that's how I've experienced it when I got the photographs. It was this beautiful visual journey. Yeah, let's get talking to, I've been planning this the whole time, but now I can't find a way to insert it. So I'll just insert it here, the LL in LL Editions. Right, so Joe, I would love to get started with talking more about your career thus far, where you started, where you studied, and could you please share with us your journey up until the point of starting LL Editions at the bag factory in Johannesburg?
Thank you, Larry. Look, my journey was just, I think it's, I always say is, you know, like when God finds you a career, it's something that I've planned for myself to become a lithographer. I never planned to become, you know, a printmaker, because it's something that I never heard or never seen or never experienced before, you know, growing up in the village or coming down to Johannesburg. So when I got into Johannesburg, I just wanted to become, you know, an electrical engineer. So looking for schools, it was, you know, not easy because also the funds were not there. And that's when I met Mark Atwood, you know, through my mother. So when I met Mark, he said, look, you need a little bit of experience if you really want something. So I suggest you go to Art Foundation. So Johannesburg Art Foundation, that's where I started. This was 1998. So I started at Johannesburg Art Foundation part-time, doing part-time, you know, fine art classes, and then part-time working for Mark. So I was getting a little bit of understanding what art is at Johannesburg Art Foundation and being able to be exposed to artists working with Mark at the same time. So that's sort of like, you know, build up like this thing in me that actually there is something here. And then, you know, helping Mark, by then there was a printer at the Artist Press called Paul Emmanuel. So, you know, like part-time, I'll be helping Paul, you know, sponging the stones and stuff. And that sort of like intrigued me. And the process, the whole process was something that was beautiful that I've never seen before. And I thought to myself, actually, this is what I want. And then, you know, my 3 years at Johannesburg Art Foundation, part-time with the Artist Press, it sort of like, you know, build up in me that let me take upon becoming a printer, not an artist, because I found it hard to draw and paint. Even there is interest. I mean, everybody can draw, you know, but I found like, you know, this color layering and everything intrigued me as an artist press. So I told Mark, if you employ me, I'll do best by you. And then that's when it started.
Wow,
so
that's incredible.
That's the platform. That's the platform where everything started.
Yes. And then how did you get to go to Tamarind? What inspired you to go to Tamarind? I know Mark Atwood was also at Tamarind. Did you maybe have conversations with him and then maybe started that process through Mark also?
Look, I think what happened is that already I was finding myself, you know, doing a lot of printing, but technically, you know, there was a bit of struggle because, you know, I was like an assistant, press assistant. So there was technically things that I need to know. And by then, Mark was running 2 businesses. You know, if you remember, you know, 99, 2000, you know, the digital platforms were as it is today. So we were doing part-time, you know, invitation and catalog for galleries. So he didn't have much time to train me. So he said, look, Joe, if there is a lot of interest, I think rather you apply for Tamarind, because I think you already experienced printer, but I think you need more technical skills. And that's when I put my application, 2001. And that's when, there was all of this September 11 and everything. So it was difficult to get access to Tamarind, so I got rejected, my visas got rejected. But 2003, my application got approved. And then that's because it was basically just to understand technicality of things. I was already a good printer, but printing without having technical skills, it wouldn't help much then. So then that's when we decided Tamarind.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not as knowledgeable about Tamarind, but I know that they only enroll a handful of international students every year.
Yeah. So what happened at Tamarind is that it's a fine art college within the University of New Mexico. No? So what happened is that they only take 8 students a year, eight participating students to become, and you have what do you call it, 2 seasons. You start as doing technical stuff, and then the secondary you do start collaborating with artists. And every semester they sort of select artists to go on to the next level. That's how hectic Tamarind is, So first semester did well. Second semester got selected to participate on a senior program with them. And then after senior program, there was 3 of us. It was me, Kim Hickey, and another student from Finland called Kale. So after that, then that's when they select participating senior printer at the pro shop. That way you get your Tamarind master printer certificate, because then you start writing thesis with the University of New Mexico, but also do technical stuff at Tamarind and collaborating with Tamarind artists, because what Tamarind is separated in 3 ways. They have a pro shop training, and they have just educational programs. So within the educational programs, once you finish your semester, then they select 1 or 2 students who are doing great to go on to the next level, that then you can get your MFA with the university. And that's what happened. I think I was lucky to be selected one of the students. I think maybe I was doing something great there. So yeah, technically, I think I proved myself even with the professors at Tamarind and professors at the University of New Mexico, that I can graduate as master printer.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. And these photographs are very striking to me in the studio. And what I found lovely is just how everything that I see in these photographs that you've shared with me of your time at Tamarind. I think I have one more. No, this is an Al edition.
This is current, yeah.
I'm just quickly going back here, but what I love seeing here is it's the same tools, it's the same equipment, it's the same processes. So that to me is wonderful, and how the principle, and that's in art in general, but focusing in on printmaking and printmaking studios, it's lovely that you see that it is the same, and the same application or everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in South Africa or you're sitting at Tamarind in USA. And that I find just lovely. I can relate to this image.
Well,
it's fantastic.
You're so right about that. It's sorry to get into that. It's all right. I think studio setups, because I also did a little bit of travel when I was at Tamarind. I did St. Petersburg, Russia, and we got time to go to Tate Gallery and to go to Tandem Press and all of this. So you're starting to understand the setup of what studio setup is, and you get to understand what collaboration is, technicality of things. But the thing about Tamarind was strictly educational program in terms of technical points of lithography. So as much as the studio setup is pretty much the same, there are so many depths of laborious processes in terms of technicality that goes into lithography, and that's what Tamarind stressed the students into, or technicians that comes into lithography to understand. So the studio setup looks pretty much the same, beautiful. You walk in, you're in a Princess ink, but I think the point of it is just to sort of like tool a printmaker with technical skills and mostly the laborious process of lithography. It looks good on scale of understanding what lithography is. It makes sense when you're printing a stone, but there's a lot of processes within lithography that like so laborious that most artists or most institutions are not willing to give to artists, and that's why most spaces you go to, you ask for lithography, it's sort of like abandoned space in a way, because of the technicality and laborious processes that goes into it. And that's what intrigued me about it. That those things that they're just so simple but so technical. Also, it's what Tamarind is about.
Yes, that's very beautifully put, and I can imagine how that in that space where the focus is so technically driven, it's like a microcosm. There's so much more unfolding. It's not just, yes, I am familiar with this, but there's with processes, with things so much more intricate. Pauline Khetagwasi, we are very pleased, is joining us as well. She spoke with me once, I think it was last year or so, about like her experiences in printing with you, and how like everything is like you make sure that everything is right, everything is ready, everything is, you check the acid, and you don't just, okay, there's nitric acid, you check the quality of your acid. And those things, I think, is something that's just coming from Tamarind. That is that very like focusing in on every aspect of this, because in lithography and in printmaking, every aspect influences your final print. It influences how the image is going to look at the end. So that I can imagine how intense that education was, and how just how also wonderful that is to be empowered with that experience and that knowledge, and coming back with it here and starting your own journey with Alal Editions. So maybe that is segue for our next question. What motivated you to start Alal Editions, and when exactly? You said 2014, right? That you started Alal Editions. Yes. So what was your motivation for starting Alal Editions? Could you talk with us a bit more about that?
Look, I was sort of like, I was working for Mark for like, I've worked with artists for about 16 years. So and I just thought to myself, there is a bigger spectrum of artists that need access. As much as we were doing great at the artist first, but I felt like, what about the artists that cannot get access to collaborating spaces? And that's why. And also, I think it was based on inspiration of other spaces. When I was at Tamarind, Malcolm Christian visited Tamarind, and then he walked in. He took me out for lunch. We had a nice chat, and he told me about self-taught processes that he sort of like get into filmmaking by himself. And he told me like, Joe, technically there aren't that many spaces, and sort of like it inspired me that if a great printer like Malcolm can say to you, there is a pool that you can set up into, that you can create your own space and work with a lot of artists, because not that many artists have access to pro shops or collaborating spaces. I got immediately when I got back, I went to see Malcolm. I saw his space, I saw his setup, and all those conversations. So the late Sanma was sort of like, technically talking about spaces. It sort of like make me aware that there are spaces that we can set up that the spectrum of artists is covered. And that was my inspiration to set up my own shop. It was basically that let's get pretty much everyone be exposed to the medium or get access to the studios if they cannot, because like there aren't that many in South Africa to get access to, and that's why I've set up LL Edition.
That's very true. That's something I'll circle back to towards the end. And even thinking about my own experiences, when I studied at the department, we no longer presented lithography. And it was something like, oh, okay, that's a lithograph, but no understanding of the process, but also like there are these, even in the spaces, like you said, the studios that have lithography is a bit abandoned. Like even with us at that time, the things were there, the press was there, the stones were there, but they weren't used. Luckily, they're being used again. Yes, they were underneath the stairs.
Yeah.
But luckily now they're being used again. But it's also a bit more enclosed inside the institution. So it's not like it's freely accessible for artists to just necessarily go in. And there's multiple reasons for it, and so on and so forth. And thinking that's the only space in Bloemfontein that I'm aware of that we're doing lithography. So I know Bloemfontein isn't necessarily as large as a hub as Johannesburg, but even thinking of Johannesburg, there aren't as many spaces. So it's inspiring what you are doing with LL Editions. I think it's so important because the way that you're also speaking about lithography, it is such a beautiful medium. There's just something that you can get from that medium that you can't get anywhere else. It's just, I truly believe in the magic that's involved. I know there's a lot of meticulousness, but also like the beauty and the magic and the aura of printmaking, like pulling that print. It's just fantastic. I'm going to move on to our next slide, more about lithography as a medium. So I wanted to just discuss process a little bit. Like I said, we're honored to have Pauline with us here. And
hello, Pauline.
These are some, I deliberately wanted to insert the photographs of you working with Pauline because she is an artist from the Free State, and we do all some of us know her and we've seen her around, and she's an incredible artist and she's very versatile. So maybe you can speak to the process a little bit and just talking about like how lithography isn't a one-person job, if I could put it like that. Yeah.
Look, thanks for introducing Pauline to this medium. I think Pauline is the person that's very obsessed with the medium more than I am. So, like when she gets to studio, technically she put me on the edge of my great experience with lithography for the last 22 years, because she always brings things that she uses, tools that she uses, drawing mediums and all these things that she brings into studio, even though I already have set up and I have things, but it's about her wanting to achieve something from the medium itself. And so technically she sort of like challenges me, and she read about it, she understands it. And it's always fun to work with Pauline. It's fun, but I think in terms of greater of stone lithography, which is it's what lithography is about, because it derives from a German word, a Greek word. Litho means stone, so that's what we call it lithography. And lithography is about writing or drawing. So how this process was discovered by accident by Ale Senefelder. So what happened is that it's the medium of grease and water, but it's not about that. There's a lot of things that you work on to achieve a greater tones that artists put forward when they're working on the store. So, finding to work with Pauline, we've done about 3 lithography stones together. And then the last challenge that she challenged me on was based on do stone color lithograph, which is a little bit hectic,
Oh, wait.
Because then you're doing color separations on stone. So I think we have one image that she worked on, and it was exhibited at La Mode, I think, if I'm not wrong. And so it was like technically doing separations on stone. We went back and forth trying to get things, right about that process. And then we end up breaking one stone, if I remember. Was that right, Pauline? So we end up breaking one stone in the process. But I think it's about her being obsessed with the medium in terms of technicality, in terms of what goes into. Remember, when you draw on a plane surface, like lithography is a planographic process, no? So what you do, you use an oil-based medium to draw on the stone that can be easily dissolved in water. But once the image is being etched onto the stone, it becomes oil-based. You cannot use water again. It becomes, completely oil-based. So what we did is that we've mixed a lot of mediums for Pauline. She used tusch, she used brushes, she used Leshoka, and some things that she brought that I stopped her in the process that actually I don't remember what that crayon is. Please don't play with it. And she said, no, it works, Joel. Let's try it. And so I think for her, it's just about pushing boundaries, and it sort of like helped me technically as well, because then I'm cautious when coming to process her stones in terms of collaboration. So it's more like a collaborative process. It's when artists like Pauline and others sort of like challenge your technicality on the medium, and that's always sort of like very exciting. When she calls, I think twice, like, do we have a week? Do we have 2 weeks? Can she come? Can she not come? So that's always like that, because it's just not collaboration. It's more technical, because in mind I'll like she'll go home and then I'll be left in studio, like go back into my notes, reading books about processing, etching, all of this. But I make sure that when she leaves studio, she's happy. So the medium itself, it brings two together. You have an artist and you have a printmaker who's a technician on the process. And then we sort of like, go back and forth in terms of technicality of how to achieve, what she sees in her head, and it always comes through with the process. And that's the fun part of collaboration.
That's beautiful. I must say that Pauline has also taught me a lot throughout our engagements at the department. And that broken stone is now my graining stone.
So bring it back to the facilities.
We did touch on this earlier, but we don't have to necessarily talk too long about this because we have touched on it. But I was just thinking of asking, what do you think about access to printmaking studios, especially in South Africa and then in places like in the Free State where it's very bare? Do you think there's more that we can do to support emerging artists who would love to access printmaking studios?
100%. Why I'm saying that, because my idea of setting up a shop was based on, let's create a ground that a lot of young artists have access, or like graduating artists want to experience or experiment the medium come through. But it's never easy. The reason I'm saying that it's not about them having access is because like at the end of the day, so many artists have trust in let's say in the studio, let's say like LL Edition, they have so much trust that they book us, so many times, and then you find that I try like in a year, I'll have to bring in like maybe 2, 3, or 4 young artists, inexperienced in terms of medium, sort of like take them through. And sometimes you see the nerves in there. But once I've worked with them once or twice, they get intrigued, and the collaboration end up being beautiful. But the most important part of here is that it's important to get young people involved. It's important to get graduating students to get involved in these mediums, that they have access and understand spaces and understand collaboration, because that helps them. You see, when you do a lot of technicality out there as an artist, you sort of like grow in mediums, because you understand, even when you go back, whether you're a sculptor or a painter, when you go back into studio, the little bit of technicality you get into when you are collaborating with a printer, it helps, when you go back to your studio. So I believe in giving pretty much everyone access to studios or spaces for in terms of collaboration. But the truth is, you find yourself sort of like swamped with artists, because they just want to do or find working relationship with you. But the important thing is to get them access. I believe that we should, if there are other printers that are building out there or creating spaces, let's create workshops. Let's create let's come together to sort of like make everyone aware that people are not feared to even set up their own little space, that they can do it themselves. So yeah, I believe in giving people access, mostly graduating students. Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Joe. And I because you have mentioned this before, and we're talking about the technicalities of the process. It's not just about making the space open, because then it's like, okay, I have access, but I don't know how to utilize this access. And it's also about generating workshops, having like people come in, interested artists or interested parties, to then also learn from shadowing or from observing. All those things I think is incredibly important. I'd love to eventually do more workshops, specifically I think for lithography, even though it's such a hectic medium, but I just really want to keep it alive, because there's magic to it. And workshops, I think, is something that can be incredibly beneficial, because once you know also the technical process, what is used, why is it used, what is the function, there are also other methods, like at-home methods that you can employ. But it also has to do with initial access, and then that teaching and learning taking place there. So I definitely totally agree with you. I'm going to move on to our next topic, which is the Angolopher book project. One of the projects that you have highlighted in your time having Alal Editions is this Angolopher book project. So I was wondering if you could tell us more about this extended project and how bookbinding is also intimately connected with printmaking.
Like what I've learned is that, and this is basically business at the end of the day, okay?
Yes.
Because we need to make a living out of it. So yes. What happened is that like about 7 years ago, Anne walked into my space and she said, "Look, Joe, I've been dreaming about doing this book about independence of Guyana, which is South America, where she was born." And so what the project came about, is that when I was at Tamarind, there was like a shop outside just around the corner from where I was staying, and it was the bookbinding shop. And then on weekends, so I had to part-time for earning a little bit of money. So that's where my book skills come in. So what I did is that, so I've learned, a few technical points of bookbinding. And also when I came back, I worked on a project at the Artist Press of William Cambridge that one night as we were working on the project, Mark said to me, "Shit, Joe, Peter Kirsten is no more. We cannot work on this project and not bind it." So because Peter Kirsten was known as one of the best South African bookbinder, in Johannesburg. And I said to Mark, look, I have this small book that I bought when I was at Tamarind for book binding. I think we can do it. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, no, we can do it. So I went in, I brought in the book, and then and Mark, he's obsessed with technical stuff also. So he read the book, I think 1 night or 2 nights, and then he came up, he built all these things that were in the book. And then within that excitement between us as technicians, we realized it's possible we can bind books. So when Anne mentioned this project that he wants to do, I said, look, it's possible. But I cannot take the whole credit here because as much as I worked on technicality of things, I was working also with Luneta, who sort of like, she's currently Johannesburg-based bookbinder. So we're going back and forth in terms of technical of bookbinding. So it took us about 5 years to finish the book we worked on. But also is that, doing fine art, you just don't stop at like just making pretty artworks. There are greater things that you can do that are unique, that are limited editions. Mm-hmm. And so all of these books that you see, it took us about 5 years. It's handmade from the lead type of the typewriting. We use like what we call like polymer plates for hand printing that we print like sort of like typewriting printing on the surface. And then all the images and everything in this book, it's hand printed technically and through the lithographs that sort of like process the plates, process the stones and print by hand. So that's why it took so long. And that's why I said, we should maybe put this forward, that people don't just think, collaboration is about, making greater images and you put it up in the frame. You can do more if you sort of like open your brains and open your mind into like what you want to achieve about, collaboration. And this is one of the best collaborations I did in 7 years of my studio.
Wow, that's incredible, Joe. That sounds even when I looked at this, I couldn't almost believe that it was all done by hand, especially that it looks like the book is in its own case, right?
Yeah, so it's bounded twice. We will have the book binding that I was working with Meta to bind, and we built the box that you can box the book inside. So the edition of this book is only 5 books. And then because as much as it looks finished, it's a lot of work. So it takes a lot of sort of like intimate processing in terms of like technicality in it, what goes in it. So that's why it took us so long. So sometimes you have 2 color lithographs, sometimes you have 7 color lithographs, sometimes you have 13 color lithographs. And then remember, if you are to print 13 color lithograph, edition of 30, like you're looking at about 3 months of working on same thing again and again and again and again. So that's where the technicality and obsession and also being patient and looking into details of things about lithography is. Because if you were to print a 7 color lithograph, I think you'll be bored to most people. Because you woke up, you go in and you're doing the same thing and you're like, for a month or even maybe 2. So, but the outcome is beautiful. It doesn't matter how long it takes or impatient you become. The beauty of it is the finished product.
Yes, it is. It's stunning. But it is very true what you say. And I know this is a bit off topic, but it's something that does come to mind also, like the strain it has on your body. I haven't printed like anything like really hectic before, but I remember the other day I printed from a big stone. I think the stone is about 100 by 70 centimeters.
Beautiful.
And we pulled 10 prints from it, but it was like it was obviously a very, very, very long time just printing the stone. And it's just my body felt it, like, and doing that process every day. It's beautiful, but also it has a tremendous effect on your body. But that's art in general for me. It really is a labor of love experience. There's one more collaboration that I've included here with Grace Mokalapa. The prints that Grace Mokalapa made with you at Alal Editions are stunning and striking. What more can you tell us about this project and about how lithography and printmaking involves a collaborative practice most of the time?
So with Grace is that she came in and she showed me her images. She sort of like, I saw her work, online, and I thought, because there is an American artist who's known, Joseph Albers. He does cubism art, and so I sort of like loved how he sort of like manipulated colors in terms of layering for lithography. So he'll do like 10 images from 4 plates. He'll just switch them around and play with cubism. And then one image is different from another, and the colors are different also. So when I saw Grace's work, I thought, wow, cubism art, and it's fresh for me because when you look around, like everybody wants to portray something that makes sense. But even though it makes sense to her as like architectural form, all these formats of like geometric forms and everything, I thought to myself, this is the artist I really love to work with because I'm interested in the math making. Because remember lithography also is about math making. If you go in math making, the outcome print looks beautiful. So that's when I invited her, and then excuse me.
Bless you.
I invited Grace, and because I realized how slow she works, I couldn't give a stone on this process. Because remember, lithography is divided in about, currently now, it has given birth to like more than 4 different types of forms that you can make lithography. So you have photolithography, egg albumen, aluminum ball grain lithography, and stone lithography.
Yeah.
So it has grown into mediums to a lot of things. So what I gave Grace a film to do a photolithography because it's a new medium that I've learned also at Harvard, that I found it exciting. And the best part of this process is that how she works, I realized I can go back and forth with an image to get what we want without even messing the etching process or getting into details that it prints. Like sometimes when you print from stone or aluminum ball grain, you have this thing of image dropping out or building in. All these technical points. So I realized how she works. If I give a stone, we can get additional 5 or maybe 10. So, but if I give a film that is also processed the same way that we process aluminum ball grain plate, then I can photo shoot it. I can expose it into a photo plate, a photolithography plate. And then even if anything was to happen, I can go back to the film and reprocess it and expose it again. And then that's the image, I can get it right all the time. So that's why I brought her in. And that's the outcome of the project.
I love these prints. I remember for something unrelated, I looked through Alal Editions and I looked through Artist Press, like all the lithographs, and I just found these prints incredibly striking. There's just something so beautiful about how it's a bit more of a minimalistic shape, obviously, but there's just this quality that it has. It's just stunning, really it is.
Yeah, and that's what intrigued me about her work, that I thought to myself, I have to work with this young woman because, and also you see, it's that thing of giving young artists access to the space. Yes. But also you also have to think through about what is it that I can do with them that it doesn't make them nervous about the medium itself. Because if I were to give a stone, I think she'll be so nervous because of the technicality that has to go through the process. Remember, if I were to do a stone with Grace, she takes about 3 days, 4 days to work on her drawing. So meaning that it will take me another 3-4 days to process the stone. Whereas that waiting period is what makes most artists don't like lithography or even printer because of the waiting process to see the outcome. So, and that's this is where, you know, photolithography and aluminum plate lithography comes in, and zinc and egg albumin. It sort of like works out that you can give an artist a medium, they work on it for 2 days, 3 days, you expose, you have the image, you prove they don't like it, they work a little bit more. Within 2 hours, you expose again, you work. So it's back and forth. It can be back and forth that they see the progress and they can see the outcome instantly. Whereas with stone lithography, it takes a lot of time.
Yes, yes, it does. Sure. Then I just wanted to include this final work of the collaboration you did with Mary Sibande. But I have just a closing question or two. What is your advice to new graduates or emerging artists on how to start their printmaking practice? Do you have any advice to them?
My advice is simple. If you're passionate enough and you think it's possible, do it. You don't want to regret it. You know, like you have to find little things that, you know, takes you there. So I dreamed of opening my studio immediately when I walked into Tambrin. Then, you know, 2003, when I left for Tambrin, you know, Johannesburg setup was sort of like you had front spaces around the Market Theatre Priestmead. You know, the Priest Street was so beautiful, and I told myself, I think I need to open a shop at Priest Street because, you know, the movement was so fun. Okay. And so the dream was always there. So I'm thinking to these young printmakers, young artists who are thinking about it, you should never be nervous. 5 things that inspires you to become a printmaker or to become whatever you want to set up as a business part of things in the art. You know, buy books that inspires you. Read at least 2 pages a day about things that inspires you. It's possible. You should never like think about it. And also writing and scribbling about your ideas in terms of business structures of opening up a print shop. It's always important. And draw your shop. You know, you need to draw your structures. See it, you know, and in images, see it in drawings, see it in writing. Then don't even stop. Just continue and be passionate about it, and it's possible. And when you start, trust me, not that many artists will believe in you, because collaboration, artists are nervous about their work, you know, who they give their work to. So you just have to be passionate, work with friends, work with people who believe in you, people that you were with in university, and then create small exhibitions, you know, of printmaking, of print, you know. Then people start to take note, people start to be interested in you, and then you invite, they don't come, it's okay. Don't ever stress about people who don't respond to your email. But I think being passionate and writing about the business and having vision, even drawing, you know, the shape of the studio and stuff like that, helps your dream come true. So it's possible.
Beautiful words, Joe. Really, truly, that I really resonate with that, and especially like draw your shop, draw what you want to do. That's something I really resonate with, because it's like you have a seed and you have an idea, give it water, nurture it, and those kind of visualizations also, you keep thinking of it, you keep like fleshing it out. That's beautifully put. And I actually had another question, but I think you've answered it now. With everything that you've said, like with printmaking, for me, the potential is there also, like you mentioned, you have multiples of one thing, so you can include it in different shows, you can send different, there's a lot of printing exhibitions, really there is. So like you can have this, that to me is the potential for printmaking as well, that multiple quality that you do have. send this
You know,
work
the
out.
thing, the
Sorry?
thing that I'm not, the thing, if I get in there,
No, I'm not part of.
to support you is that, you know, South Africa currently, you know, even galleries, there's so much in denial of print, okay? And that's the business part of print. They're so in denial of print. But when you look out in Europe and America and the West, you know, there are so pop-ups of print exhibition. Currently, like last month, New York had like New York art on paper. All these things is about prints, drawing. You know, remember, even if you are a painter, you still have to sketch. You still have to work on, and that's where the idea of collaboration and printing comes in. You know, and my advice always is that to artists and up and coming artists and graduates is that remember, if you come to my studio and we collaborate, now I'm looking at the business part of things, okay?
Yeah.
Is that we're gonna work on something that becomes multiple. We can edition it to like maybe edition of 5 or up to even 20 or 30. So you automatically have a shop as an artist, you know, working with a print shop. So you can work with me, you can work with David Cook, you can work with Malcolm Christian, you can work with all this about, you know, pockets of print shops that exist. So immediately when you work with all those files, you left like, let's say, edition of 10 with each space. So you've got 50 artworks out there.
Yeah.
So you've already created an income while you're working on your painting. So if you are working towards an exhibition, LL Editions might call you, hey, say we've made a sale of 2 or 3 prints. You know, so it's more like a business because you're creating multiple with professional in a collaborative space that respectfully editions are limited and they are authenticized, that people understand what editions are, which it makes a huge impact in Europe, but it doesn't locally because galleries are shying away from, you know, from what prints are. Even if you look at art fairs or exhibitions, they will call us multiples, but they not consider the skills that goes into the multiples. You have technician who's the printer. You have an artist who's like doing multiple layering. Remember, every color is drawn by artists. You know, it's not that they draw it and we process it and we Photoshop. No, every color is sort of like carefully drawn by artists, layering by the technician. So the artwork itself, one said to me, what do you think of prints, Joe? I said, actually, prints are more expensive. They should be more expensive than painting. And this person said, why? There's just multiples. I said, you have a professional technician who sits there technically and helping artists. You have an artist who spent hours and hours building layers for this artwork. And then it doesn't matter whether it become a multiple. It doesn't matter when the edition is 5 or 10. But these technicians have sat for more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe to work on this process to give you a print. So actually the process of printmaking, it's more expensive than most people think.
Yes.
So it's, you know, so that's where multiples comes in, and it becomes a vehicle shop for artists that, you know, if you've done edition of 10, you can take one wherever you want on consignment. One can be left at the gallery, one can be left at the print shop. You know, so it's a marketing point for artists while they're working towards something big for their career.
Yes, that's wonderful advice. I totally agree with that. Thank you so much, Joe. I think our time is for our conversation part. It's over. I'm going to hand over back to Machtel. That's fine.
Thanks, Loreen. Thanks, Joe. It was, always, I'm not an artist myself, but it's extremely insightful to listen to you and just find out more about this fascinating world of lithography. I don't know, I know, see someone, Sipe Zenane said in the chat box, what role can the government and the private sector play within this space without controlling the art direction or creativity? Do you think, is anyone keen to answer that question? Make a suggestion.
I'm not sure if you would like to answer that question, Joe. I'm a bit, to be honest, I'm a bit at a loss.
It's about what government can play a role. Is that the question?
Yes, what
Look,
role can the government play and the private sector within the space without controlling the art?
I think you should just let artists be. The important thing is that artists, remember, I say this to a lot of my friends when we talk about art, is that creatives, they have ego to create. And then, you know, like something when it comes with things to create something, whether it's in business, technical things about, you know, videos or movies or anything, when persons sit down to create something, you know, you cannot control that. You should let that be. But I think the greater part here is to support the idea. And if there are funds to be driven to an idea, I mean, they do that in advertising. Why there's so much money influx in advertising, which is creative part, and there's no money in art? So it's more or less the same thing. It's just the creativity and the platforms are different. You know, one is visual for like 2 seconds, one is visual for years and more than 100 years, which I mean, if you go to archive, you can still find adverts of 30, 40, 50, even 100 years ago, you know, video archives. But, you know, when you go to museum, you find all these pieces of art in print, in paintings. So I think what government needs to play a role is to support and initiate programs that helps artists to become. That's what I see.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, government do have some programs that I'm thinking of now, like the Art Bank, that buy artworks. So in that way, they're not necessarily involved, but also there's a specific panel that chooses artworks to buy. I think from the other side, like support to the artists, I mean, during COVID, I'm not so clued up on it, but I know during COVID, there was some like support to artists, but it didn't really reach the artists, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, some artists work with corporates. Currently, I'm working with them on a project that is sort of like initiated by corporate because they like his work. You know, it's just in pockets. It's not like sort of like in a bigger program. It's in pockets, you know. And that's again interest of businesses. You know, business will be interested in you as an artist, and they'll work with you. So I think the bigger role is workshops. Is that if the thing if we can create platform for workshops in terms of art of collecting, you know, bringing businesses together to understand how they can sort of like work with artists in terms of the creative side of things. I think workshops will be more important. That even corporate and businesses understand, you know, the role artists play. But other than that, you know, I think, as I've mentioned before, artists have egos and creatives have egos. You just have to like sort of like let them be and find a way to work with them.
And there are initiatives. I mean, I mentioned the Art Bank, and Joe has also mentioned a few examples. And I think the initiative that Patswanieni is doing, which is a competition, which also gives out prize money and gives opportunity for artists to exhibit in a space like Lebanese. That's also something. Sassel, your signatures, Upstart Lead, you have these competitions as well. But it should be more holistic, if I could put it like that, like looking at each like aspect of art making. And I think that's what Joe was mentioning as well, like workshops, not just the end product, and also education, teaching and learning. I think that's also something that
like the TP Cement programs in terms of sculpture, and you know, there's little, but there could be more. There could be more.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for that answer. I don't know if there's anyone else that perhaps wants to ask a question. Pauline, you're also welcome if you want to make a comment or come in. Since you've worked with Joe, you're most welcome to unmute yourself and say something if you want. I don't know if there's anyone else who wants to add something. I'll just give you a few seconds. Okay, Corin, please, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Corin. Yes. This is Corin Bruce from the Free State Arts Collective.
So thank you so much to both of you for a really inspiring, insightful conversation today. But Joe, you know, I remember when you opened up LL Editions and word was on in the town that, have you heard that Joe is starting his own space? And I've literally watched you grow and grow over the years, and you've become quite a force on the continent. So congratulations for that. But I'd love to know what's next. What would be the ultimate dream for you in your journey as a master printer maker, in your collaborative journey? Is there anything you would really love, or maybe an artist that you'd love to work with, or tell us, share a dream with us?
Sure. If I share a dream, then it's no longer a dream.
Okay, well, okay.
Let me say this, Karen. Thank you for that. But I think, I believe in a greater establishment of spaces that, I look up to Tandem Press. I look at Landfall Press. I look at Tamarind. There's a lot of spaces that I would like to see me become, because then when you become that, you're bringing not you as a technician, you bring a lot of technicians into the space, that they can work with pretty much everybody. They can create platforms for schools. They can create platforms and initiatives within the space. So if I were to say that's my dream is that the studio grows, that it creates programs that is not just about me, it's about everybody that technically is aspired to build something, that, technician of silk screen technician, all these technical points of printmaking or print mediums can come together, that I don't have to be Joe LL Edition, the master printer. It can be LL Edition space, that it has art on paper gallery, that all these young artists that are coming up, even if they're graduating from institutions, they can just write a proposal to LL Edition to say, Joe, we have a plan. Can I have this program for a year, and we establish that, they run it, and it's fun. So I like to see LL Editions go into, look at Tandem Press, look at Landfall Press. I can mention so many presses all around the world that have created space, that the people who started it, they're just foreseeing the programs. They're not like really working, and these young people become master printers, become technicians, become art on paper galleries, become curators. So that's how I like the space to become. That is not about me. And then I appreciate that you see me grow. Thank you very much. I like people who follow me silently and embrace me. And it's not about me, it's about the people I work with. And thank you.
No, absolutely. I mean, one thing that definitely came through in this conversation is the fact that collaboration is key to everything, and also that you're an activist about, raising the knowledge and the technical prowess that you need in this field. It is so important that people realize how much goes into creating just one lithography print. I hope the people listening to this conversation also realize that, Joe, you're an ideas man, obviously. So if we can send our ideas to you with the possibility of it turning into something that could grow in the future, I strongly urge people, especially in the Free State, to start putting their thinking caps on. You might get an influx of Free Staters now, Joe.
I'll come to Free State. I'll come. I'll definitely come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carl.
Pauline, welcome to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Joe, thank you so much. And it is a great honor to have worked with you. I just want to add on the stone that I've broken. I think Joe really had a heart attack, but it was so crazy, because I mean, Joe was working as a professional for 20 years when it happened, and I really felt at that moment it was heartbreaking. But Just to say how can I say in defense, it was a laminated stone. So
I realized that.
It was very thin.
and it was right at the point where it was anyway going to break. But I think what was wonderful, what came forth by then was how he showed exactly how you have to put a metal and then pull the little pipers through to measure, to make sure that the stone, when you grind it, gets grinded very evenly, because it is a manual process and it is done by hand. And it takes many hours to grind the stone. So, and I knew Joe also said to me, if I work with you, you want to grind the stone. And yeah, so it was a great process, because I think it also brought a lot of the knowledge back to the Free State University.
Definitely it did.
Yeah, thank you, Loreen, also for lending me shots this time.
Anyone else want?
The thing,
No, Joe, please speak.
to add on, Pauline, about the stone, I realized, because I thought, my press was level. So when we were working with the stone, so I went on to check my slate, that if it's level, and I said, no, the slate is level. So I went to Pauline, I said, how did you grind the stone? And then you mentioned that you have a machine that you guys, electrical machine to grind the stone. And then I went in with a thin, like the old phone books, the page. So yeah. I had like a lever that I put it through the stone, like, so it was like sort of like, mathematical process to see where did it happen to break. And that was fun part between me and Pauline. And we were all like, the stone was not level. Okay, I can feel better by myself, but it was not my fault. And Pauline was okay about it from the beginning, but it was such fun, because then again, as I mentioned before, you go back to the books to sort of like see if things were done properly from the beginning, technically, to get things right. And that was that. It was the highlight of from scratch to an end. You have to get it right through the process, throughout the process. Yeah,
absolutely.
Just a question I want to ask as a layperson is, you keep talking about the magic of this medium specifically, and I would love for you to just share a bit with me why you see it as that way, and how that might inspire other artists to also start practicing the art and learn more about it. I think there should be more artists that venture into that area. So share with us a bit about the magic of the medium and why you love it so much.
The magic of the medium basically was how it was discovered. Alois Sonnenfelder in Germany was a scriptwriter and a music writer. Okay, so he worked with a lot of artists who wrote books, who wrote maps, and playwrights. So when he discovered lithography, it was by accident, because they had like this limestone that was sitting at his desk, and then so he was always scribbling around it when he was writing his music or theater English, the theater script for his playwright. So when he was writing, and then at the end of the day, he realized he has written more on the stone that was sitting on his desk. Then he started to sort of like think, okay, if then I were not to rewrite things, then I can use this. How can I process this that I came from it? So the process was by accident, but it became a greater process. And it was meant for, then from then it was like, if you want to edition few maps, if you want to edition few scrolls, if you want to edition musical notes. So that's how lithography was discovered. And then when it was mentioned to artists, because artists always have those crazy ideas, and that's how the process was like, okay, then black, then what? What if I want red? What if I want black? What if I want green? And that's how the process grew into this multicolor layering. So if you look at the best of CMYK and color multi-layering of the processes of offset printmaking. It's based on how the lithography was discovered. So if you're a painter and you want to do multi-layering, lithography is for you. You know, if you are a sculptor, you want shapes to look funny, it will give you three-dimensional pieces. But it's just about how technically it can become. So that's the fun part of the process itself.
Okay. For me, it's about the alchemical wonderfulness of it all, and just the idea of literally printing from a stone.
Yeah,
that's magic.
It is. It's amazing.
And just one last thing I was wondering about technology, just and the way the world is developing. Is it at all a threat to this medium and the way this medium is made? Do people still have the time and the energy and to kind of, you know, to put so much time and energy into making this artwork? Do you think that will continue to exist?
It does in many forms. I've recently worked with two artists that want to take. I work with Wayne Barker, who he got access to images of the miners that came 1600 in South Africa, that they were having postcards from all over the world. And funny, I have a piece. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. It's just not far from my desk. I think I can turn my computer, but you all can see. If you look at this piece, can you all see?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was like an Arab images that were sent to Arab men who were miners in South Africa. So when I was working with Wayne Barker, he said, Joe, I have these images, but I cannot redraw them. I don't know what to do. And that's where the today mediums help, because then we then took the small photograph that he had, which was not even a photograph, it was a postcard. And then I worked with an old man called Greg Harbert, who's used to do color separation back in the day, because I didn't want to distort what the image is about. Because technically, if I were to use like a modern way of doing things, it would be like a Photoshop image. I didn't want that. So I've given it to Greg, and Greg sit and did color separation like RGB, as he was doing at like you will do a photography, old school medium for exposing films, you know, by hand. And he gave us 3 colors, and we multi-layered them back that we can rework the image. And that's the beauty of, the old meeting the new form of doing things. And so it's possible, but look, technology is growing. Even the things that we used to have access to in terms of lithography, it's not easy, but we just have to, there's always passionate people out there who will always give you access to things, and that's the best part of it. So technology, as much as it grows, we find a way with working with technology.
Okay, I like what you're saying, and that makes me feel very optimistic about the medium. I must say, I also find it to be beautiful, and I really hope that there's a lot of artists tuning in today that will draw inspiration from what you've said. And can we invite people to contact you if they want to get some mentorship from you or just some advice?
100. I'm open. I'm open to questions. I'm open to people inspired to come to the space, and that's where workshops comes in. Immediately when I have more than 5 people or 6 people contacting me, then I'll say, then let's set up a workshop. Then it becomes the beauty of this connection. So yes, I'm 100% open to ideas of having people contacting me. Okay,
Lorraine, any last words?
Yes, I would just once again like to say thank you so much. Thanks to you, Machtel, and your team at Pachwanieni, and also the support from APSA, but for taking the initiative. I think this is fantastic, truly, truly, I do. And then I'd just like to thank Joe. I'm so happy that you agreed to have this conversation with me, and you've really taken us through a journey today, and I'm so honored to have been a part of it. So thank you for
very much.
allowing me to engage with you. I really,
Thank you very much.
really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All of you are so modest. It's beautiful. But thank you to both of you, Joe and Loreen, for making this possible. For Pauline, for you two for coming in and contributing to the conversation, and everyone who joined us today. The next webinar is taking place on the 29th of October, the 27th of October, and it's going to be Andre Rose interviewing Tracy Rose, the internationally renowned artist. So we're very excited about that as well. So be sure to watch our social media and the website and your email inbox for invitations to that. And please register, and we hope to see you there. So yeah, just once more, thank you to everyone, and you must have a wonderful evening.